Hi guys, it's Marissa from littlehouseliving.com. Today I wanted to talk to you about something that I've been working on lately. It's a blog post that I've been working on, and I had plans to publish it later, but I went to the store today and changed my mind and wanted to get it out to you as soon as I could. And I also wanted to make this little video to go along with it. I've been thinking a lot lately about preparing for difficult times. And I think it's something that's on everybody's mind right now as we're in a difficult time, and it seems like there doesn't seem to be kind of a light at the end of the tunnel right now. It just seems like things are getting a little bit more difficult. So I just wanted to chat with you today about some things that are on my mind about preparing for the time ahead. And I will try to keep this video brief, but I will have a full blog post with more details, and I'll make sure that I'll link to that in the section below so that you can read that as well. But when it comes to preparing for difficult times, it seems like there's a lot of different reasons why you'd want to do that. You might want to prepare for a job loss or something unexpected, like this whole pandemic that we're going through. You might want to prepare for the season to come, like if you have bad winters. There's so many different reasons why you'd want to be prepared for a difficult time. And it has absolutely nothing to do with doomsday prepping or survival prepping or anything like that. I'm talking about practical ways that you can have your family more prepared for something that might come up. So you just don't have to worry as much, because honestly there's no reason to worry. There's so many things that we can do now that can prepare us for something that's even unexpected. So that's kind of why you might want to. What you're going to want to prepare is going to be based on kind of your main reasons for preparing. If you're preparing for winter, that's going to look completely different than if you're preparing for a job loss or a potential job loss. So you kind of have to gather all that information for yourself first before you do that. And then just something to keep in mind while you're doing some preparations is your emotions and your level of worry, because there shouldn't be worry involved when you're preparing, because you're preparing so you don't have to worry, so you know that your family is ready to take on whatever's coming in the future. There's no need to be worried. So just make sure you keep your emotions in check while you're doing this. Don't prep out of fear of something, or don't prep because somebody else is doing something that you think that you need to do. It needs to be something that you feel like you need to do for your family specifically. And again, what you're preparing needs to be what your family needs and not what somebody else needs either. So there's a couple basic categories that I think about when I think about being prepared, of things that you should prepare. The first one is preparing water. So there's a lot of different ways that you can prepare water. Or be prepared with water and store water. It depends on what type of water system you have at your house. If you're on city water or if you're on well water, you probably want to have extra water. It's recommended to have, for storage, 1 gallon per person per day that you want to store water for. So that kind of seems like a lot, and it really is a lot of water. I try to shoot for having a week's worth of water on hand for the whole family at one time. I have these jugs that are 7-gallon jugs, and so we have 5 of them, and that stores a whole week's worth of water for the whole family. It's pretty easy just to store them in our root cellar. So there'll be many different ways that you might want to prepare water. Like I said, if you have a well, you might want to prepare your well to be able to handle no electricity with the pump, or if you haul water, you might want to have extra water in storage. But definitely water is the top thing on my list that I want to have prepared and to think about in advance. And then the next thing that you want to think about is obviously food. So we've noticed with this pandemic that's going on, at least in the beginning, grocery store shelves were cleared so quickly. And I went to the store today, and the shelves were, I mean, it was crazy how empty they still are, especially for like basic staples and stuff like that. Or like the milk shelf was almost completely empty. It was crazy. But I mean, they're thinking about things and they're starting to worry, and so those shelves are starting to get cleared again, if they ever got stocked again, after they were cleared the first time. So you definitely want to think about food. When you're storing food, you need to think about only storing things that your family is going to eat. Do not store the freeze-dried food if your family is not going to eat them, or if they taste gross. Personally, we do not store any of the freeze-dried food. I'd much rather have canned food and stuff that I know that we're going to eat, because otherwise it's just a waste of money and storage space for us. So I have a couple lists on the blog, and I can link them below, for different types of food that I feel are like basic storage essentials, good pantry staples that everyone should have in their storage. And I worked a little bit on that myself today. It's hard when you're talking about storing food. That's something that's kind of expensive. So if you don't already have a pretty good stockpile of it, it's going to be a lot if you try to get it all at once. So if you're thinking about storing food, first you need to decide how long you want to, how much food you want to store. Do you want to store a month's worth of food or 3 months worth of food? And then once you figure that out and kind of what you need, then you can go and just start adding that to your regular grocery shopping trips. Because stuff may not be available when you go to the store now, and you might not be able to fit it into your budget if you try to get it all at once. So kind of try to, if you can, try to spread that out as much as you can, and not feel like it's so overwhelming all at once. And yeah. So then the next thing you want to think about is your shelter. And that again is going to be different for people if you own your home or if you rent your home. When I think about having a safe place for my family, no matter what the situation is, I think of something that's warm. I think of something that is safe from the elements. I think of something that we can pay for, even if there is some kind of job loss, or if income goes down or something like that. So those are kind of my main thoughts. So one of our big reasons for being prepared is winter preparedness. We've been told by all of our new neighbors that it's going to be quite rough here. So we are preparing, we're building our house right now, so it's really hard to get it prepared. But as we're building, we're thinking about, okay, how is this house going to be warm? How are we going to keep it warm? Are we putting aside some extra money to pay the land loan if there's a month or two where things are a little bit tighter, if income goes down or something like that? Shelter is just something that we need to think of. And I just want to remind you that, like, having shelter in the essence of being prepared does not mean that you need to sell what you have right now and move out to the middle of nowhere and build your bunker. It just means that you need to prepare where you're at right now for whatever difficult situation you're preparing for. Okay, so the next thing that I want you to have on your list of things to prepare when you're considering going through a difficult time is, how are you going to pay your bills? Because even if things are difficult, you're still going to have bills. You're still going to have your rent or your mortgage. You're still going to have electricity payment. You still may have a car payment. There's always going to be bills no matter what, unless you completely live off-grid and your house is already paid for. So something to consider is putting money aside. We follow the Dave Ramsey method. We've done that for several years, and he recommends having 3 to 6 months worth of expenses put aside. Obviously, that's a lot of money, and it's hard to come up with, especially if you're trying to do it in a hurry. Maybe you want to sell some things to be able to get to that point, or to be able to put aside more money. It's just something to think about when you're talking about going through a difficult time, especially if that difficult time is a potential job loss or the inability to get to a job to earn the money. Something else you could think about is taking up a side job, maybe something you could do from home. That way you could have that job no matter what. Or, like I said, putting aside the money. There's a lot of different things. The other more extreme way that you could think about this would be to start trying to eliminate those bills. You may not, like if you're not going off-grid completely, you may not be able to eliminate your electricity completely, but there's probably some things that you could do to really cut down that bill to the bare minimum. And that's just something to consider with every bill that you're paying. Like if you have a lot of cell phone bills, maybe you want to get rid of one of your phones or consider a different cell phone plan that would be less. Anything that you can do to bring those bills down as far as you can, without being completely uncomfortable, that would be something to consider when you think about paying your bills in a difficult time. So the next point that I want to touch on, I think these are all important, but I think this is really important, and it's because when we think about going through a difficult time, we think about stockpiling, right? We think about having things ready and having everything we need. But if we're considering a difficult time that is more of an extended period, there's just no way that you can stockpile enough stuff unless you have a huge area to stockpile in and lots of Mylar bags or something like that. It's just not really feasible to stockpile everything you need for the long term. Sorry, I think there's a rabbit over there eating my stuff. So one of the most important things is to learn new skills that you might need during a difficult time. So I think it's fun to always keep learning. This year I am taking a class through my local extension office. They're actually offering it online this year, which is really cool, about how to become a master preserver. So I've been canning and preserving for a long time. I watched my mom do it when I was growing up. I watched my grandma do it. But there's still things that I can learn because there's always something new. And it's just kind of a good refresher course. It's been great so far. I've been really enjoying it. And that's just a free class that you can take online. So there's a lot of options like that where you could learn skills online or from your home that are probably going to be able to help you through a difficult time. Knowing the skill of canning and preserving is going to greatly help us right now as we're preparing for a difficult winter. I'm thinking about, well, what if my power goes off and I'm not able to use my oven? What can I make with my stove top? And so I'm thinking about all the foods that I can that would be really easy for me just to pour on my, put in a pan on my stove top and they're just ready to go. And for that, there's some canning skills that I may not have used for a long time or may not have done before at all. So I'm learning those in the class, and I hope to be able to utilize those skills in the coming months as we prepare for the difficult time that we're preparing for. And then one of the last things I want to mention is, of course, you need to have a good stock of household supplies. So, and by this, I don't mean you need to go and hoard all the toilet paper at the store. It's just not necessary, and it doesn't leave any for anybody else. But what is good to do is to figure out what kind of household things you need. So think basics like toilet paper and toothpaste and deodorant, shampoo, some of those basic household staples that are things that are consumable. And think about or just observe how much of them you use as a family. So like we know we use the Scott 1,000 sheet rolls of toilet paper, and I know that we go through one roll every week as long as we don't have company and we're not sick. So I can store, if I have a stockpile of about 30 rolls of toilet paper, which does not sound like very much, we can make it through about half a year unless we have a bunch of company or end up being really sick. But that kind of gives us a little bit of an idea. So it's a good idea to figure out how much you need, and then you can start stocking up on those items based on how long of a term you're trying to prepare for. And then the last thing that I wanted to mention is not something that's officially on my list, but just something that I think everybody needs to remember, and it's to prepare to have fun during your difficult time. So during the last several months of us being more stuck at home, before we started on our house project and stuff, we tried to do some other fun things to keep the kids busy, to keep our minds busy, and I'm preparing to do some of the same things this winter because I know that we're going to be stuck at home again. So things like having some new puzzles, or we got some really cool craft kits for the kids, or some science kits. Just things that are a little bit different that you can pull out of the closet, and on maybe one of the days when it's a little bit more difficult to be going through whatever you're going through, or something that you've put away and you can pull out for your family and be like, hey, this is really, like, this is fun, this is special, let's do this today. And it doesn't have to be something big. You buy like a game or a puzzle. You can just buy something special to bake that maybe you don't normally get. I just ordered some naturally colored, like the little M&M things, which is not something we normally buy. It does not generally fit into my budget, and we just don't use them that often. But I thought I am going to grab a couple bags of those and just put them in my pantry so we can make some fun monster cookies, you know, whenever we're going through something this winter. It would just be a fun family activity and something a little different and out of the ordinary. So like I said, I have way more details in the blog post that I wrote, and I will link to that below, but I want to hear your ideas and know how you are preparing for whatever difficult time you're preparing for that might be coming up, and some things that you would add to this list that would just be practicalities that other people can use as they're preparing to go through difficult times as well. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will talk to you guys later.